I never expected a single email to upend my life, and I definitely didn't expect the sender of that email, the 43-year-old publishing tycoon who ruled half of New York's literary world, to be standing in front of me on that sun-washed Tuesday morning in Chicago, looking at me like I was a threat. But that was before everything exploded. It started 3 hours earlier. My landlord taped a bright orange eviction notice on my apartment door. I had 48 hours to pay the overdue balance, or leave. I stared at it until the letters blurred. My scholarship had dried up. My part-time campus job barely covered groceries. My mother's medical bills were eating everything else. I had spent the last month applying to internships like I was fighting for oxygen, and now I was out of air. Which was why, when I received an unexpected email titled Internship Interview, Immediate Availability Required, from Sterling House Publishing, the most powerful publishing company in the Midwest, I grabbed my worn tote bag and ran. I didn't know then that the email had been a mistake. I didn't know it wasn't meant for me at all, and I didn't know whose office door I was about to walk into. Sterling House occupied the top floors of a glass tower overlooking Lake Michigan. Everything gleamed. Silver elevator buttons, spotless tiles, the enormous windows catching the morning sun. I felt small in my thrift store blouse and scuffed flats, but I held my head high. I had to. Desperation didn't look good on anyone. The receptionist scanned the computer. "Name? Ava Bennett," I said. She frowned. "I don't see you on today's interview schedule." My heart sank. I got an email." She checked again. "You're not listed." I swallowed, ready to apologize and slink out the door, when a firm, low voice carried across the lobby. "Who isn't listed?" I turned, and every coherent thought vanished. A man walked toward the desk with a controlled stride, sunlight catching the silver at his temples. Tall, broad-shouldered, powerful in that quiet, dangerous way. His suit looked like it cost more than my entire year's tuition. Dark charcoal, crisp shirt, sleek tie. His eyes were a cool blue-gray, sharp enough to cut. He didn't just enter a room. He took command of it. "That would be me," I said, praying my voice didn't crack. He looked at me briefly. Just a flicker. But it was enough to feel like he'd assessed me down to the stitches on my blouse. "Mr. Sterling," the receptionist said. "She's not on the list, Mr. Sterling, as in Theodore Sterling, the 43-year-old publishing tycoon, the man whose company I'd dreamed of working for." He studied me again, slower this time. "Who sent you an email?" I can show you." I fumbled for my phone and pulled up the message. He took it from my hand before I could offer it. His fingers brushed mine for half a second, and my pulse jumped like it had been electrocuted. He read silently. His jaw tightened. "This wasn't meant for you," he said. I felt the floor tilt. I'm sorry. I didn't know. My assistant forwarded the wrong file." His voice was calm, controlled, but his eyes said something else. Frustration, maybe, or something darker. "You weren't supposed to be here." Heat rushed to my cheeks. "Of course, a mix-up. A stupid, humiliating mix-up." "I'll go," I whispered. "Wait." The word stopped me mid-turn. He exhaled slowly, rubbing his thumb over his brow like he was reconsidering something. Then he handed me back my phone. "Come with me," he said. I blinked. "What?" "I want to ask you something," he said, already walking toward the private elevator. "If you're going to be here, we might as well clear this up properly." This was the part where a normal person would have questioned him. But desperation does strange things. I followed. His private floor felt like something out of a documentary. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, sunlight spilling over sleek modern furniture, framed first-edition covers lining the walls. It smelled of cedar and ink and something expensive I couldn't name. He walked into a glass-walled office and gestured for me to sit. I lowered myself into a leather chair across from his desk as he remained standing, arms crossed, gaze fixed on me. For a full, long moment, neither of us spoke. Then, "Why did you apply here?" he asked. The question was simple. His tone wasn't, I swallowed. "Because I want to be an editor, and your company is the best." He watched me with unsettling intensity. "Do you write?" "I try. You read? All the time. What's the last book you loved? The suddenness of the question startled me. The Orchard's Edge. The character work was... I published that. Of course he had. I exhaled, embarrassed. It changed me, I murmured. His expression shifted. A flicker of something soft warmed his eyes. Nostalgia, maybe. That manuscript landed on my desk 20 years ago. I stayed up all night with it. You have good instincts, I said. He went still, like I'd said something no one had said to him in a long time. Ava, he said finally, lowering himself into the chair opposite mine. Tell me the truth. Why are you really here? The truth was a $20 bank balance and an eviction notice crumpled in my bag. But I couldn't say that. So I said, because I want a chance. Just one. His gaze swept over my face, searching, analyzing. I felt like he saw every fear I tried to hide. You remind me of someone, he said quietly. Who? Myself. 20 years ago. The confession surprised me. He leaned back, eyes distant for the first time. Hungry, determined, with the world stacked against me. Then his eyes returned to mine. And not enough people willing to give me a chance. Something in my chest tightened. Before I could respond, a knock sounded at the glass door. His assistant entered, flustered. Mr. Sterling, about the email mistake. He held up a hand. Later. She nodded awkwardly and left. Then he focused on me again, expression unreadable. You weren't supposed to be here, he said softly. But maybe you're exactly what this place needs. My breath caught. Was he saying, tell me, he continued. What would you do if I gave you the internship? The real one. Work, I whispered. Hard. As hard as I know how. He studied me again, slower, deeper. I felt the temperature in the room change, or maybe it was just my chest. Then he stood, palms pressing into the desk. Follow me. My heart lurched. Where? To see if you belong here. He led me into a conference room where half a dozen editors sat reviewing pages. They all turned as he entered. This is Ava Bennett, he said. Read her, test her. Tell me what you think. They blinked, surprised, maybe at my presence, maybe at his tone. Then he placed a manuscript in front of me. Thick, unedited. Make notes, he said. Cut what doesn't work. Strengthen what does. You have 20 minutes. 20 minutes. For something that normally took weeks. But there was something in his gaze. A challenge. Yes, but also belief. As if he expected me to rise to it. So I did. I read fast, marked faster. My pen flew across the margins. Something in me clicked alive. Instincts, rhythm, flow. Words had always spoken to me, and now I was finally speaking back. When I finished, I handed it to him with trembling fingers. He skimmed the pages, brow furrowing. Then lifting, slowly. Finally, he looked at the room. She sees what half of you missed. My throat tightened. He turned to me, voice low but firm. You start Monday. I sucked in a sharp breath. You're offering me the internship? He stepped closer. Sunlight caught the sharp angle of his jaw, the strands of gray in his hair. His eyes were unreadable. No, he said softly. I'm offering you a chance to change your life. My pulse hammered. I didn't know this man. I didn't know his world, but something about him, his power, his sharpness, the shadows behind his self-controlled facade, pulled at something I couldn't name. And then, he lifted my chin lightly with 2 fingers, forcing my gaze to his. Don't make me regret this. My breath hitched. Then he stepped back. See you Monday, Ava. I left the building shaking, part exhilaration, part disbelief. But as the sunlight hit my face, everything inside me twisted, because I didn't realize until I checked my email again. The internship came with a condition. I would be working directly under Theodore Sterling, every day, in his office, and the warning beneath it sent a chill down my spine. Strict no fraternization policy, 0. Tolerance, immediate termination. I stared at the words, and all I could think about was the way he had touched my chin. My stomach flipped. This job could save me. This man could ruin me, and Monday was only 5 days away. On Monday morning, Chicago glittered in the kind of bright autumn sunlight that made the whole city look freshly polished. I should have been excited. I should have felt lucky. Instead, my nerves were so tight they felt like violin strings, because today, I wasn't just starting the internship. I was stepping into his world. The elevator doors opened onto Theodore Sterling's private floor, and the air shifted. Quieter, sharper, humming with authority. Editors moved like they were trying not to disturb the air itself. Then he appeared, standing near his office door, adjusting the cuffs of his slate gray suit, hair perfectly styled, sunlight catching the silver at his temples. He looked every bit the man whose decisions could change careers with a sentence. He looked untouchable. Yet the instant his eyes found mine, something softened. Barely, but enough that I felt it. "Good morning, Ava," he said. My name sounded different in his voice. Steadier, heavier, important somehow. "Good morning," I managed. He gestured to his office. "Come in." Walking into his office felt like walking into a different climate. Sunlit, warm tones, shelves of pristine first editions, a massive desk overlooking Lake Michigan. The city glittered behind him like a postcard. "Sit," he said, nodding at the chair across from him. I did. He studied me with that unsettling analytical intensity that made me hyper-aware of every breath I took. "You're early," he said. I didn't want to be late. "Good," he said simply. "Never be late." I nodded quickly, heart thudding. Then he slid a manuscript across the desk. "You'll start with this. I want your notes by end of day." "End of day?" I asked, startled. "All of it?" His mouth curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. "You said you wanted a chance. This is it. No pressure." He leaned back in his chair, still watching me. "One more thing. My expectations are high. I don't apologize for that." "It's fine," I said, though my pulse was going wild. "I can handle it." For a moment, he simply stared at me, like he was trying to see if I believed my own words. Then he said quietly, "Good." The day blurred into pages, notes, edits, and stolen glances through the glass walls of his office. He never raised his voice, never micromanaged, but I always knew when he was watching me. Always. Around noon, he walked out of his office and stopped at my desk. "Lunch," he said. I blinked. "Oh, I brought something from home." He lifted an eyebrow. "That wasn't a request." My breath caught. He gestured for me to follow and walked toward the executive break area. Sunlit, quiet, more like a private lounge than a kitchen. He grabbed 2 plates and set one in front of me. "You need to eat," he said. Editors burn out quickly, interns even faster. The way he looked at me when he said it made my stomach flutter, as if he cared, as if he noticed. I ate quietly, painfully aware of him sitting across from me. Sleeves rolled slightly, hands strong, posture perfect even at rest. Then he surprised me. "Where are you from?" he asked. "Madison," I said. "Wisconsin." "What brings you here? Chicago isn't kind to people without thick skin." "You say that like it didn't chew you up, too," I said, before I could stop myself. His eyes lifted, a flicker of surprise crossing them. He didn't deny it. Instead, he said, "Tell me something, Ava." His voice dropped slightly. "Why does a girl like you look like she's carrying the weight of the world?" My heart jolted. "I'm not—" "You are," he said quietly. For a moment, the air between us tightened. I didn't mean to, but the truth cracked out of me. My mom's sick. I'm behind on rent. I've been trying to keep everything together and failing. His jaw tightened, not in judgment, in recognition. He looked away, tapping his thumb against his coffee cup once, like something old had resurfaced. "You remind me too much of my younger self," he said. "That's dangerous." "For you?" I whispered. His eyes lifted to mine. "For both of us." A chill ran through me. Then he stood abruptly. Back to work. The wall came back up, that steel control, that impenetrable distance. But it was too late. I had seen the man behind all of it, and he'd seen me. By late afternoon, I was finishing my notes when his assistant, Marlene, stormed toward my desk. Her voice dropped to a harsh whisper. "What did you do?" I blinked. "What?" "You're working in his office. No one works in his office. No intern has ever—" She cut herself off, glancing toward the glass-walled corner suite. "Just be careful." "Of what?" I asked. She hesitated, then said, "Of him." Before I could respond, Theodore opened his office door. "Ava," he called. I stood immediately. "We need to go downstairs." "Downstairs?" "A meeting. You're observing." I followed him to the elevator, hyper-aware of how close we were in the confined space. His cologne warm and subtle, his presence overwhelming. As soon as the doors closed, he spoke. "Whatever Marlene told you, ignore it." I exhaled, startled. "You heard that?" "I hear everything." "Of course he did." Then softer. "I'm not the enemy, Ava." "I didn't say you were." His eyes flicked to mine. "But you're afraid of me." "I'm afraid of disappointing you," I said before I could take it back. His expression faltered, just for a heartbeat. Then the mask returned. "That," he said, "is the problem." The elevator chimed open. The meeting was a blur. Executives pitching, editors debating, everyone watching Theodore like he was the North Star. He spoke only when necessary, but when he did, the room shifted to orbit around him. Then, during a heated exchange about a new author, he surprised everyone. "Ava," he said, turning to me. "What do you think?" 30 heads swiveled toward me. My throat closed. I think the character motivations need tightening," I said slowly. "The emotional arc is there, but the pacing undercuts the impact." Silence. Then Theodore nodded once. "Exactly." The room murmured. And suddenly I wasn't invisible. I was seen, because he had seen me first. By the time the day ended, I was exhausted. But when I returned to pack my things, Theodore stood in his doorway watching me. "How was your first day?" he asked. "Intense," I admitted. He smiled slightly. "Good. You handled it." A warm flush crept through me. Then his expression shifted into something unreadable. "Ava, there's one thing you need to understand." He stepped closer, voice lowering. "We work closely here. Long hours. High stakes. But there are lines that cannot be crossed." My pulse quickened. "Because of the no fraternization rule." "Because of more than that," he said. "Because once I break a rule, I don't unbreak it." His eyes held mine, unblinking. "And you," he said softly, "are temptation in its purest form." My breath vanished. "Theodore." He exhaled sharply, cutting me off, stepping back like he was burning his fingers by being too close. "Go home, Ava." His voice was rough. "Before I do something we both regret." The words hit me like a storm, except everything around us was still bathed in warm daylight. I left quickly, heart pounding hard enough to shake my ribs. But halfway to the elevator, I heard it. "Ava." I turned. He was standing in his doorway, jaw tense, eyes conflicted. "Be careful," he said quietly. "You don't know what I'm capable of." And then the door closed. I didn't know how I made it out of the building. I didn't know how the afternoon sun felt hotter on my skin, or why the lake breeze suddenly couldn't cool me. All I knew was this: Theodore Sterling wanted me, and he was fighting it with everything he had. And I, stupid, reckless, desperate, I was falling anyway. But the truth hit me hardest when I reached my apartment and saw the eviction notice still taped to the door. I needed that job. I needed the stability. I couldn't afford to want him, but wanting him had already begun, and wanting him would be the thing that destroyed everything. The next 2 weeks were a slow unraveling, of him, of me, of the space between us that kept shrinking even when we pretended it wasn't. Every morning, sunlight poured across Theodore's office floor like it was blessing him alone. He'd stand by the windows overlooking Lake Michigan, sleek suit pressed, hair perfectly silvered at the temples, posture unshakable. And every morning he would greet me with a quiet, controlled, "Good morning, Ava." But beneath the professionalism, beneath the boundary he tried to maintain, something pulsed, constant and unmistakable. A pull. One I felt in the way his gaze stayed on me a second too long, in the way he stood slightly closer than he should, in the way he caught himself looking, then looked away like it cost him something. And yet, he fought it. Every single day. He grew colder with himself, sharper, stricter, toward everyone, but mostly toward me. He buried himself in work, in deadlines, in control. But I saw him cracking. The late nights with his tie loosened. The long pauses where he stared at his framed first editions, as though remembering another life. The moments he'd hesitate before speaking to me, as if searching for the version of himself who wouldn't break his rules. And the more he resisted, the harder it became for me to breathe. I told myself I could handle it. I told myself it wasn't real. I told myself I needed the internship, not him. But one afternoon, everything shattered. It was a Thursday. Bright, crisp, almost too perfect. I was reviewing a manuscript when Marlene rushed to my desk, her expression tight. "He's in trouble," she said. My stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" "The board is furious. They think he's distracted, unfocused, that he's giving special treatment to..." She cut herself off. "To me?" My throat tightened. "Is he going to be fired?" "No, but his control over the company is being questioned." She hesitated. "Ava, he's burning himself down trying to stay away from you." The words hit me like a windstorm. "He won't let himself get close," she said, softer now. "He thinks he doesn't deserve to." Before I could respond, her phone buzzed. "They're calling an emergency meeting." She squeezed my arm once. "You didn't cause this, but you're the only person who can stop him." She rushed away before I could breathe. For the next 2 hours, the building felt like it was holding its breath, editors whispered. Executives paced, and he stayed in that glass-walled conference room, surrounded by people who had once revered him. When the doors finally opened, Theodore walked out, and I barely recognized him. His suit was still immaculate, his posture straight, but his eyes were tired in a way that hurt to see. Then he said quietly, "Ava, in my office." My pulse thundered. When he closed the door behind us, the sunlight filled the room in warm gold. Beautiful. Brutal. He stood with his back to me at first, hands braced on the desk. "It's time I end this," he said. My breath froze. "And what?" He turned, and the pain in his expression almost broke me. "This," he said. "Whatever this is between us, whatever war we've been fighting." "I'm not fighting you," I whispered. "Yes," he said softly. "You are, because I'm losing." He ran a hand over his jaw, a rare, unguarded gesture that showed the weight he'd been carrying. I tried to stay away. I tried to follow the rules. For your sake, for the company, for everything I spent my life building. He paused, eyes locking with mine. But I can't keep pretending you're not the first thing I think about when I wake up. My heart stopped. And the last thing before I fall asleep, he added. Voice cracking. I stood frozen, unable to breathe. They think you're a distraction, he said. A weakness. I never wanted to hurt you, I whispered. You didn't. He shook his head. You reminded me of who I used to be. Before success, before walls, before I learned how to live without wanting anything. His voice dropped. You made me want again, Ava. A tear slipped down my cheek. He inhaled sharply. And that's why I have to let you go. No. My voice broke. No, you don't. His jaw tensed. If I don't, they'll tear the company apart. I'll lose everything. Then lose it, I said. Lose everything but yourself. He stared at me, stunned. You built this place, I whispered. But you can't sacrifice your life for it. You can't sacrifice what you feel. He took a step toward me, then another, but he stopped just short of touching me. Ava, his voice was wrecked. If I cross that line, I won't come back. Then don't come back, I said. Come forward. For a moment, the world held its breath, and then he closed the small distance between us, lifting my face with trembling fingers. The sunlight hit his gray hair. His suit brushed my arms. His breath warmed my skin. You're the one thing I've wanted, he murmured, and the one thing I told myself I could never have. You can, I whispered. You're allowed to live, Theodore. Something inside him broke, quietly, beautifully. And he kissed me, not like a man crossing a line, like a man choosing freedom. His hands framed my face gently, reverently. My fingers curled into his suit jacket. His forehead rested against mine when we parted, breath unsteady. I'm not letting them take this away from me, he said. Not anymore. Then what now? I breathed. He smiled, small but real. Now we tell them the truth. The boardroom was bright with late afternoon sun when we entered. Executives looked up, startled. Some confused, others bracing. Theodore didn't hesitate. I'm stepping back from oversight on the internship program, he announced. Effective immediately. Murmurs rippled. And I'm recusing myself from any personnel decisions involving Ava. Bennett gasps. He looked at me, then back at them. And what I do in my personal life, he said firmly, is no longer up for debate. The room went silent. Someone finally asked, Your reputation, aren't you worried? He straightened. I built this company from nothing. I've earned the right to choose happiness. And he reached for my hand, openly, proudly, without apology. The sun caught our joined hands, like it was blessing the moment. The room didn't matter after. That nothing did. 2 months later, I stood on the rooftop terrace of Sterling House during a bright Chicago afternoon event. Breeze warm on my face, flowers lining the space. Theodore walked toward me with that slow, controlled stride I'd memorized. Gray hair shining, sleek suit immaculate, eyes softer now, lighter, freer. He wrapped an arm around my waist. Happy? He asked softly. More than I knew I could be. He kissed the top of my head. You know, he said. You changed everything. No, I smiled. You just remembered who you are. He touched my cheek gently. Because you saw me. I always did. We stood together in the sunlight, the future open and warm before us. No secrets, no rules, no fear, just us. A man who had built an empire, a woman who had rebuilt his heart, and a love that neither of us saw coming. But both of us were brave enough to choose. If you loved this story, don't forget to subscribe for more emotional age gap romances. Comment your favorite part, the moment that made your heart drop, race, or melt. And share this story with someone who loves addictive, slow burn love as much as you do.